Before you turn an assignment in, it's always a good idea to go into the My Grades area of Blackboard and look at the grading rubric that will be used to evaluate your work. So here we are for the Argument Analysis Final Draft. Click on this and it will pop up the rubric. And these are the categories that I'm going to be looking at. I'm going to be looking at the utilization and integration of the outside source material. In this case, you only have one source that you're using, and that's the argument that you've analyzed. Thesis development, author's voice, lexicon, organization, and grammar. So in terms of your outside source material, you want to smoothly and effectively embed these sources into your own writing. What I see students do a lot is you've got a lot of quotes from the author or authors once we get to the point where we're using more than one source for an essay, and it's back-to-back quotes and your voice is getting lost in there. So whenever you use an outside source, what you want to do is you want to lead into it and then you want to evaluate and assess it. And you want to avoid always doing that formulaic Jane Smith argues, quote, parenthetical. So you might want to lead into it with a point of your own in your own wording. Maybe just pull 3 or 4 words from Smith. Put that in the middle of your sentence around, with quotations around it, and then cite at the end Smith 23. So that's when I say stylistically integrating your sources, you have to have some variety. So sometimes you might want to paraphrase, sometimes you might want to summarize, sometimes you might want to directly quote. And there will be times when you are summarizing and directly quoting in the same sentence. So you're just pulling that key phrase that Smith might have said and putting that in quotes in the sentence, and the rest of the wording around it is you paraphrasing what Smith said. So that is what you're going to aim for in terms of integrating your sources, and I've given you resources. The Signal Phrases handout is definitely something all of you should be looking at. Thesis development. This area will change rubric-wise depending on the assignment, but for the assignment you're turning in now, you want to make sure you have specific examples of each logical fallacy that you are analyzing from the article, and you want to evaluate and assess the quotes that you pull from that article after you quote. You should not be ending a paragraph with a quotation. You should be ending a paragraph with your evaluation and assessment of that quote, why it pertains to the particular logical fallacy that you are describing, and there should be some transition from the end of that paragraph into the next one. And that gets more actually into the organization of things. If you want to work chronologically, meaning you're going to start at the beginning of the article and explicate the fallacies that are in it in the order that they are written in the article, that's fine. If you don't want to do it that way, that's fine too. But you have to have those transitionary phrases between the end of one paragraph into the beginning of the next so that it makes sense to reader why you're going from, say, a slippery slope to an ad hominem attack. Author's voice. This is the academic tone of your essay. In college, we don't want to write like we talk. So instead of saying get rid of, eliminate is a better choice. In today's society, very cliche, avoid that. Nowadays, that's too colloquial. So get rid of those trite words, cliche phrases, things that are vapid and don't really do anything. You want to aim for an academic tone. That doesn't mean get overly pedantic. We don't want, a lot of words needlessly used or erudite vernacular utilized irrespective of necessity. That's not your goal here. Your goal is to have an academic tone and eliminate the more colloquial conversational tone that we would speak to each other in. And then finally, grammar hasn't changed since you've been in 3rd grade, so just proof your papers. Make sure that there are no grammatical mistakes. If you don't take the time to do this, you will lose points for it, and it really is a case of you should give yourself time to finish that draft in terms of content, set it aside, walk away for a day, and then come back and just proof solely for grammatical mistakes. You'll be surprised what you catch if you give yourself the time to do that. If you're trying to, at the last minute, finish a paper and then proof for grammar, that's where you're going to make a lot of mistakes. So give yourself a good 24 hours between the time that you're done content-wise with your paper and the time that you sit down to just proof for grammatical and sentence level errors.